Hey there, it's the ABCs of Preschool podcast, the place to be for busy moms, teachers, and childcare providers. I'm your host, Miss Amber, an early childhood expert with nearly 3 decades of experience and a proud mama too. I know you're running around with those little ones, so let's jump right in. Hello, everybody. This is Miss Amber with the ABCs of Preschool podcast. Welcome back. Thanks for listening. I know I'm a new podcaster. I'm learning. So if you've been listening, I really want to say thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate the support. Sorry. Sometimes it takes a minute to get your dreams going. Sometimes it feels easier to sit on the sidelines. It's been a thought I've had lately. I could just sit on the sidelines and go back to living my very really kind of cool life before, but I decided to put myself out there, and it's not an overnight thing. It takes practice and learning. So if you've been supporting and you've been listening, I just want to say thank you. Today we're going to talk about mom guilt. It's a topic for everybody if you're a mom. And the amount of times my friends and I, colleagues and I have talked about mom guilt, it's probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. When I was a new mom way back in 2000, I've talked about it before. I've definitely talked about it in my book, The ABCs of Preschool. When I was living in the Bay Area, I was a part of a really amazing moms group called the Fun Mothers Club. And they are still active today. And I have so many warm, amazing memories of that group. And even way back then, when I was a new mom, the minute you have a baby, the minute you become a mother, I think you naturally find, hold on to mom guilt. And I don't know if there's any way around not having mom guilt at least once in your life, twice in your life. But I have a feeling through our entire lives, we will deal with mom guilt. And it can range from anything from, well, I will tell you my first example of mom guilt. I had my firstborn son. He was 2 weeks late and a giant baby. I was literally in labor for 62 hours, I believed, and I was pushing for 4 hours to the point where they had to bring me to the operating room and like vacuum him out of me. He ended up being 10 pounds, 2 ounces. He was gigantic. And I was so exhausted that I could barely even hold him after I delivered him because I had like no more energy in me. And he had a fever. I had a fever. So he had to go into the NICU. But my first experience of mom guilt was when I tried to nurse him. And in my mind, I had decided before I had him that I was going to nurse him. And it was difficult for me. He didn't latch on right away. It could have been because as soon as I had him, he had to go to the NICU. Anyways, he wasn't with me the first few hours. They were monitoring him. I think because I had a really big fever and I had such a really long labor. I think they had to give him antibiotics. It's been a minute. it's He's 23 now. But that was my first when they brought him back to me and, I had like a nursing coach. I forget what they're called. Maybe there's called like a nursing coach, a lactation. I think that's called a lactation consultant came in and he would not latch. Like, and my breasts were engorged. You know how it is when you have a baby, he wouldn't latch. I remember I was crying, he was crying, and that was my first experience. I felt so guilty. It was a very hard journey for me to nurse. I finally was successful nursing him, but it took many days. We had to do like a bottle with a little tube like taped. So it was very difficult and I felt like such a horrible mom because in my head I had envisioned, oh, I'm just going to have him and he's going to latch and there we go. Like we're going to go on our way. Well, that's just not life. Life, even though we have a plan in our head and we have expectations of ourselves in our head, life happens and reality sets in and different circumstances. I couldn't have predicted how my labor was going to go and that he was going to need to go to the NICU and that he was going to have trouble, latching on. But that was my first experience with mom guilt. I had the tears. I felt horrible because he had to have a bottle. We put these expectations on ourselves and we are the ones that bring on the guilt. And throughout my motherhood journey, that was just the first of the mom guilt. The second was I thought I was going to be a stay at home mom. I envisioned myself as a stay at home mom. I planned on being a stay at home mom. But for me and my motherhood journey, I quickly realized he was 4 months old that I wanted to go work. And so I had guilt because, oh my goodness, I felt guilty that I actually wanted to go get a job. Like, I should just love my son and be there for him 24/7. And I started to feel guilty because I wanted more. As much as I loved him, I loved being a mom. Like, I can't put into words how much I've loved being a mom. Like, I knew from very early on I wanted to be a mom. So it's just in me, through me. It is my greatest, I feel like my greatest accomplishment of just loving my kids. But I had guilt. When you're a new mom, sometimes there's segregation in the mom world. You're a working mom or you're a stay at home mom, and vice versa. Sometimes you have to work. You have no other choice. Maybe you always planned to work. You had always planned you were going to be a mom, but you planned to work. And maybe it's the roles reversed. Maybe it's you ended up having your beautiful baby and decided, I can't go back to work. And then you have guilt because you wanted to financially provide for your family, but for you and your journey, you're deciding to stay at home. I think all of us as moms struggle with mom guilt, and it can come from making mistakes on parenting, making mistakes on schools for our children, choosing to work, choosing not to work, just having these high expectations for ourselves and not living up to our expectations. So, what do we do with mom guilt? I think it's natural. So, first of all, I think we all have to step back and realize it is absolutely normal and natural at one part of your motherhood journey, you are going to have mom guilt. I think when it becomes a real problem is when that is hyper focused on and it is all consuming. When early back when my son was having issues latching on, I had to evolve and change my idea of nursing. I had planned to only nurse and have no bottles, and that didn't work out. And so I had to start learning to accept that my son was going to be nursed and he's also going to have a bottle, and that's okay. And for my nursing journey, for most of the boys except for one, I had so many issues nursing. I only could nurse for a few months. I had infections. I had mastitis, that was called, like over and over. They wouldn't, anyways, it was not what I had envisioned. So I had to choose to create a new idea. And I had to take the expectations of what I thought was to be, and I had to throw it out the window and I had to evolve. I could have sat around crying every day that I couldn't fully nurse my son. So I think when it becomes such an issue, if it's all consuming, we have to remind ourselves that we are not perfect. And although we may have a plan and an envision for our motherhood journey and how we parent, life circumstances change. Our children come into this world being their own unique person on their own unique journey. So, our expectations of them and how we envision parenting them may not work. And we might have to have a new vision because we have to evolve and change and go with the flow for what our child or children need of us. Whether you decide to work outside of the home or you decide that you want to be a full time mom, you have to decide what brings you the best joy and what brings you the best way of doing things so you can be the best mom. Talk to any of your mom friends, and they're going to tell you they've struggled with mom guilt. It's just natural. Another one of my mom guilts is that I have 4 children, and as much as I parented them a little bit differently for each of them, I didn't implement schooling them differently until later in their education journey. 2 of my kids did totally fine in traditional school, and 2 of my kids struggled in the box of traditional school. Looking back, I have guilt now that I didn't pool my kids that were struggling with the box type of schooling, that I didn't pull them sooner and put them into a new school environment. I struggle with that today. I have mom guilt for that. That's just being transparent. I'll give you another example. This one is deep. It's deep in me, through me, and I'm not sure if it will ever go away, but it's gotten way better over the years because I've had to let it go. Is my guilt of leaving my ex-husband. It was my choice to divorce. It was my choice to leave. And I carry the weight, the heaviness of breaking up the family. Now it's been 9 years, almost 9 years, so it's fading. But if I hold on to it and think about it and go backwards, it will eat me up. Like, literally, it will eat me up. So, I want to encourage you today as we walk through our motherhood journey, there's going to be things that come up that we're going to have mom guilt, that we mess up because we are not perfect. Even though we're in a mom role and we are nurturers and we love and we want to do the very best job for our kids, we are not perfect and we're going to make mistakes just as our kids are going to make mistakes as they grow up. As humans, there's no such thing as perfection. As mothers, there's no such thing as perfection. We are not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We are going to struggle with guilt, but we have to choose to not let it eat us up. If we sit in the guilt and if we let the guilt eat us up, we are not serving our kids well. We're not serving anybody because we're beating ourselves up over and over and over. And your motherhood path can look completely different than my motherhood path. And that's okay. And as women, as mothers, I think we need to stop looking at other mothers and judging their journeys. I remember feeling it really heavy when I was younger and an first time mom, making the choice to go back to work, making the choice to work again. I felt like I left the stay at home mom pack and went to the working mom pack. And I think that's crazy and silly, and we need to let that go because it's cycles that will continue. Like, if we have daughters, if you're a mother of a daughter, the biggest thing that we don't want is we don't want her to repeat our cycle, and we wouldn't want her to carry that guilt. And things aren't going to work out the way we planned, and that's okay. And we have to just pick ourselves back up and acknowledge that we are doing our best. And our best is all that we can ask for. And it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to take time out during the week. That's another thing. I hear this all the time. I hear this from moms that even have adult kids. It is okay to take mom breaks. In fact, it's encouraged. If you do not take breaks, you will get exhausted, you will get worn out, you will get sick, and that does not serve your kids well. It is okay to get a babysitter and go out to dinner with your partner. It's encouraged. It is good. I think so many people get so wrapped up in their kids, and the parents get so wrapped up in our children that we forget about each other. And our kids are gonna leave us one day. Like and it goes fast. Let me tell you, it's gonna go fast. And you don't wanna be standing there with your partner and looking at them like they're a stranger. We also have to be examples. I talked about this in another podcast. We have to be examples to our kids. We want our little ones to have nap time. We want our little ones to have rest time because it's good for them. We want them to have a full night's sleep because they're growing and developing. That doesn't change just because we're adults. We need our sleep. We need our breaks. We need to be able to breathe and recharge so we can go back into our role as mama bear, mommy, mother, whatever your title is, recharged and refreshed. So I just want to encourage you. It's so normal to have mother guilt, to mom guilt. There's no way around it. But when you feel it, and we've got to learn to let it go and not consume us. The consuming, the all entwined, the guilt alone for anything can eat up a human spirit. Like it can eat us up. When I was going through my divorce, the first few years, the amount of guilt was so heavy, so thick. I felt as though I was walking with this dark cloud over my head 24/7. It was eating me up, like, to the core of me. And I really had to work through therapy and different people of working through the guilt of leaving, because for me and my path, my journey as a human being, I knew I had to leave for different circumstances. Today, it's definitely lighter. I don't feel it as much. I'm excited and I'm proud that my kids see me happy and whole and with a person who loves me fully and accepts me. And I love that they see this really amazing relationship between the two of us of kindness and respect. But it was a long process to get there. And if I sit with that guilt still today of all the trauma and all the damage that goes from divorce could eat me up. Like I literally am on border of tears right now. It will stop me from living. It will eat me up. So as a service to our children and to be the best mom, we can't stop living and we can't sit in our guilt because we're not serving anybody well. And remember, it is not we shouldn't have guilt for saying, "I need a break." We should not have guilt to say, "I love being your mommy. I love being a mom. I have so much joy, but I need a little bit more. My soul needs a little bit more." Or, "I don't think I can work 40 hours a week, and I can't do both right now. I'm struggling. I think I need to quit work." And I know that might be financially hard for our family, but it's just what I have to do right now. It needs to be okay. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a working mom, whether you're a nursing mom or a bottle mom, whether you're a homeschool mom or a public school mom, whether you're a Christian mom or a Muslim mom, whether you're married or single, we are all doing our best. Loving our kids unconditionally and being there to support them, to nurture them, to be their biggest cheerleader is our role. But our little ones will grow up and they are on their own path too. They are their own humans with their own needs and their own journey. And let's not create a cycle and they live in their own guilt and their own shame. If we learn to let it go, our guilt and our shame, we learn to feel it, process it, let it go, then they will learn to let their guilt and shame go as they grow up. Mamas, you're doing awesome. Yes, we're going to stumble. Yes, we're going to fall flat on our faces. Yes, we're going to scream one day and we're going to lose our patience. It happens. It happens to all of us. But what we have to do is get back up, say, I love myself. I'm doing the best I can. My kids are good and I'm okay. They're okay. And I'm not going to sit in my mom guilt. I may feel it, I may have it from time to time, but I'm not going to let it consume me. I'm going to live fully in joy and love and peace and kindness. And I'm going to smile. And what a gift our life is, and what a gift it is to be a mom. So many people struggle with infertility. They are struggling out there. So if you are gifted right now in motherhood, it is a blessing. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Don't let this gift that you have be ruined by nonsense guilt, especially over the little things. There's no reason for it. Thank you again for listening. I wish you a beautiful week. Wish it, dream it, do it. And I will see you back here next week on the ABCs of Preschool podcast. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hear this podcast. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss the next episode. For more information on how to work with me, Miss Amber, visit me at thelovingstartway.com or follow me on Insta at thelovingstartway.